What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tech Productions. Today, Bancroft will bring you all another deck profile. Not just any deck profile, but we're finally bringing out Raditz. We have not seen Raditz at all at our locals, so I decided to kind of start putting it together and start working on it. And this past week, I got a chance to actually play it. And without going over the details, because we do have a couple matches that will be coming out later this week, I loved it. I loved the way it performed. It was very nice. And let's get into the deck profile. Oh yeah, there's buttons. Feel free to click them there for a reason. So, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses one card in your hand, send it to the warp. It's not going to their discard pile, which is pretty nice. Going to the warp, so certain cards like Deborah can't be triggered by this card. Activate main once a turn. Look up the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose one red or green Raditz, Vegeta, or Nappa, and add it to your hand. If you add a card to your hand, you have to discard a card. And the card awakens 4 less life, or if you have a green unison with a specific cost of 3 in play, you may draw one, switch one of your cards to active mode, and awaken. Once you awaken, you still have the auto when this card attacks. Your opponent chooses one card in your hand and sends it to warp, but it's been improved. So now, if your opponent has 4 or more cards, non-black cards in their warp, this card gains crit for the turn. Then, auto, place 4 non-black cards in your opponent's warp at the bottom of their deck in any order at the start of your main phase. This card gains triple attack for the turn. If you have 6 cards in your opponent's warp when you use this effect, you can go ahead and use it then. It will put you at 2. Using your unison to put one in there, on this leader's swing, will put another one in there, and then from that point on, that leader now has crit for the turn. So it's 3 15k triple strikes, triple attacks, if your opponent has 6 cards in the warp at the time of you activating that bottom effect, which is pretty cool. And I kind of lightly mentioned the Nappa already, so boom, play 4 of them. It's the only unison we play because I kind of want to focus on what this deck was, in my opinion, wanted to go around the idea of. I could definitely understand tacking in a couple of the King Vegeta unisons because of other cards we play, but we're not going to get into that right now. SS3 Nappa, Golden Invader. +1, your opponent chooses one card in your hand, sends it to warp, which just helps keep that leader's auto engine going. The -2 is you choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards of energy cost greater than or equal to their current energy and KO them. The -3 active main we don't really use, we don't play a secret rare, so we're not going to worry about that one. This is a 20k unison. So if your opponent wants to get rid of it, they're going to have to put some work into it. Going to ideal turn 1 plays. We play 4 of the Vegeta Elite Resolve. Unique permanent. If you have a field card in your battle area, this card gains blocker. This auto has this card has 2 autos on play. Either look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 green same energy cost of 3 or less among them, and then shuffle your deck afterwards, or choose 1 Powerball from your deck and add it to your hand. We typically go for the Powerball. I only play 2 because I don't want to see it in my hand, really. Actually, that's a lie. If I get this card in my hand, it's amazing, but I was trying to figure out what to cut deck space for, and I have no problem paying 1 to play this card turn 1, not blocking with it until my opponent's second attack turn. But Vegeta's Powerball, which completely understandable if you want to play it more than 2, that's not a bad idea, because this card's free to play. If your leader card's green Saiyan, you can play this card without paying its energy cost. Auto once per turn, when one of your non-Grade Ape Saiyan cards is KO'd by an attack, you may choose a Grade Ape card that includes the color and character's name of the KO card with an energy cost of 4 from your deck, and you can play it in rest mode, shuffle your deck afterwards. And at the end of your turn, you can choose one of your Grade Apes in your battle area and switch it to active mode. And a great combo. If you see this card turn 1 and you see this card turn 1, you're playing 2 cards without paying any energy. Because this card plays free because your leader's green Saiyan. This card plays for free because you have a green field extra card in the battle area. And keep in mind, the permanent is if a green field extra card is in your battle area. Yeah, in your battle area. So yeah, you can play for free without paying its energy cost. That way you could choose a block with this card and use this effect to play an ape on your opponent's first attack turn if you go first, which is amazing. And the ape we play, obviously, is the 4-drop Vegeta from set 15. It's a blocker. Limit 1, you can play this card outside using the Powerball effect if, when one of your green non-Great Ape Vegeta cards with blockers are removed from the battle area by an opponent's skill, you may play this card from your hand. So it's just another way of getting out there if your opponent wants to use a different card to remove the battle cards without it taking, by being KO'd in battle. So, auto, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, discards it. Doesn't go to the warp, which is fine, but it kind of goes in the idea of keeping your opponent's hand low because you're not going to get cards either. Activate main for 2 green energy. If you have a field extra card, if a player has a field extra card in their battle area, you can play this card from your hand. So in case you're not seeing the Vegetas, that's fine. As long as you see the Powerball at some point, or even the other Vegeta, and they remove it, whatever. But this 2 energy to play it. Now going to the leader, putting cards in your opponent's warp, always a great idea because in late game, you could potentially pay 1 energy to draw 3 cards. This card has a secondary auto. I don't care about it because 1-drops aren't really a problem for me a lot of times. But if you have a 1-drop in your opponent's field that is a problem, you could just play this card and you could KO it. But ideally, you want to play it for the draw effect because if your leader card's Raditz, when you play this card, choose 1. Draw 1 card for every 2 non-black cards in your opponent's warp. On average, when I play this card, it's always a draw 3 for me. So that's not a bad trade-out. Other Raditz who plays, when your opponent swings and your opponent warps a card, or if you activate the Nap as a +1 ability, you can play this card for 1 energy. The auto is limit 1 for 1 green energy. When a card in your opponent's hand is sent to the warp by one of your skills, you may play this card from your hand. Auto, if your leader card is green, when this card is played for every 2 non-black cards in your opponent's warp, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards energy cost 4 or less and KO it. So if your opponent's going pretty wide with a bunch of battle cards that energy cost 4 or less, you could potentially snipe 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky with this card for 1 energy. And that one is a blocker, so it kind of goes into the Powerball effect. I had the Grade A Raditz from set 15 as well, which is a dual attack blocker. Has the same auto / limit 1, where you can pay a red or green energy when one of your Raditzes is KO'd by a skill, or sorry, removed from the game by the battle area by a skill. But the auto here is when this card attacks, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost greater than the number of cards in their hand and KO it. An amazing card, because if you go off the leader's ability, the Nap's ability, and potentially the other Vegeta ability, just you're reducing your opponent's hand constantly. So if your opponent tries to play bigger cards, you can swing 1 time and knocks it out. Keep in mind that auto is not a once per turn. So if you want to use a dual attack to wipe out 2 cards, go right ahead. Activate main for 1 red, 1 green. Doesn't matter, we don't play red cards, but it's a way of playing this card cheaper if you have a field card in play. So with the 4-drop here, and potentially the Raditz here, or you can go off this Raditz and free playing this guy. If you already established enough 4-drop apes and you're kind of feeling okay with this, I have no problem doing this a lot of times by paying 1 energy and scrapping cards to play Fusamasu. It's just another card that when swings, your opponent has to choose 1 card in their hand and place in the drop area. So ideally, if I have the Great Ape on the board already, I swing with it. They get rid of a card. I pay this to draw a card. I pay 1 more to play Fusamasu. And then I swing with that card and they get rid of it. The problem is I won't do that if I only have 1 ape, because I want to keep that blocker alive. I want to keep the ability to continue adding pressure from this one as well. But if I have 2 of these guys, I have no problem getting Fusamasu out. So that's why I only play as a 2-up. Like if I see it, sure, I'll do it. Going off the leader's ability, on Awaken, when you do your search to discard cards, I found it very, you could very quickly get cards into your discard by turn, even during your second turn. So a lot of times this is active on your second turn. Dark Temptation Toa. Just over round 3, but like I said, turn 1 if you go first, you're not getting anything from your swing, so all you're doing is activating main, which is great. You pitch a card, your opponent swings. If you happen to establish a blocker, you can block with it. That kills the blocker. And then you activate your leader's ability again, and you discard a card. Boom. Now you could activate Dark Temptation and then make your opponent choose another card and send it to the drop area. It also boosts your leader, which is pretty good, especially on the Awakened side. If you don't have enough, like if you don't care about the resources in your drop area, just play this, making your leader potentially a 20k crit triple attack. So, 2 Nappas on guards. If you can establish this card early on, it's really great because if your opponent plays a battle card using a skill, so hang on. Auto switches cards to rest mode. When your opponent uses a skill to play a battle card with an energy cost greater than the current energy, they choose 1 card in their hand or one of their battle cards and play and send it to the owner's drop area. So depending on what you're playing against, playing this turn 1 is not a bad play, or even potentially turn 2. Just if you know you're playing against an opponent who likes to play really powerful cards, this could be a way of kind of like tapping and going, okay, cool. You want to get rid of that card, or you want to get rid of the card in your hand? And from there, it kind of tells you what's more important here. Is that battle card really important for them, or is their hand more important? So, more hand control stuff, because that's what the deck's going off of. 2 Rosies. For 3 energy, deflects. It's hitting the board. Your leader card's green or heroine. When you play this card from your hand, your opponent chooses 2 cards in their hand and discards them. Then this card gains triple attack. So it's just another triple attack to apply more pressure to your opponent, and they have to discard 2 cards because of it. 3 Rubians, because why not? Paying 2 to discard 2 cards from your opponent is not bad. 2 EDKs, because once again, you're paying 1 to discard a card from your opponent's hand. If you're playing against decks that like to go wide and able to establish a board against you, okay, we got Majin Buu flood control. So these next cards, a bit interesting. These are my super combos, and I'll kind of explain why I went the 2-2 route. So I played 2 Vegeta the Lone Prince and 2 Android 18 Bionic Bullets. So Vegeta, you can play it turn 1. Your opponent has a discarded card, which is really great. Early hand control pressure. But from that point on, unless your opponent tries to get rid of this card using anything they have, they know once I get down to 4 life, I have an active super combo on board. Android 18 is a 10k combo card that just helps you get out of a pinch and makes your opponent place 1 card from their hand on their deck. I initially did these cards like this because I like Vegeta's ability to draw cards, but I like Android 18 being able to just use whenever I need to without using energy. But I didn't have 4 holo Vegeta the Lone Princes. There's not a holo there, I get it. I actually grabbed the wrong card, so I didn't realize it until literally right before recording this video. So there may have been a misplay at our locals, and I thought this was that super combo. I thought they just didn't alter it, and I just didn't read it until I literally was putting the deck part. I'm like, that's a completely different card. So intentionally, that was what was supposed to happen. So if I happen to combo with this card, and that's why it was supposed to be an Android Bionic Bullets, I just grabbed the wrong card, didn't even catch it until afterwards. But yeah, I do a 2-2 split. Because I can get the Great Apes on board fairly quickly, sometimes your opponent wants to try to slow you down. So I do play 2 Dorias, especially during mid to late game pressure. They may try to like topo me or something like that. I can just play this, get rid of that card. Counterplay if your leader card is mono green, you have a green unison card in play. If the battle card being played is energy cost at 2 or less, is placing on his drop area instead of being played. 2 homicidal clones because it's a negate that helps me go down to 4 life. That way super combos are useful. Well, Vegeta 1 for drawing. Or in case my opponent's trying to be double strikes at me or whatnot, I can just take 1 life to play another blocker. 1 Kakuta, 2 energy to negate an attack. That will then KO a battle card. Obviously it's green, so we play 3 Dormant Potential Unleash. 3 Frieza's Chromatic Villains. And for the secret rare, obviously I went with the Wicked Saiyans because it's just really good, especially when it comes to hand control. Being able to do this potentially on turn 2 is great because there's no restrictions unless I overlooked it. This card's removed from the battle area, removed from the game instead. Permanent if your opponent has 2 or more energy, your leader card's green, yellow, or character shares the name. This card gains dual attack and blocker. Then auto for 2 energy at the end of the battle, which this card was used as a combo, which is free to combo with. Your opponent may choose 4 of their cards, switch them to rest mode. If they do, remove this card from the drop area from the game. If they don't, you play this card. Then your opponent has to choose 2 cards in their hands and discard them. So it's just really good when it comes to the idea of going for hand control. So that's my Raditz. Hope you all enjoyed. If you have any comments, put them down below. If you want to see anything from we're going to set 16, let us know as well. We're going to try to start bringing those videos as soon as we get our case. So yeah, read your cards, know your place, and fluff out.